Yeah, I mean, I ask those guys all the time, when we come off the field at pregame, what their yard line is for, a field goal. And he told me about the 43 on that side. So I got to trust him. That's where the ball is being played. So I had to trust him. And, it was 4th and 10. It was 4th and 4. I may have thought of something different, but 4th and 10. And, he felt pretty confident. And I know we're really good in our operation. So, we obviously made the call and we went with it. And he drilled it. He did what he's been doing all year long. And, last week was a tough week for him because he missed one. And he's a perfectionist. And, he never wants to miss one. So that was obviously a huge get for him. The guys got it down there for him too, which was great. After a penalty, which, suspect, a bunch of suspect penalties out there, quite honestly, on our side. But we got the job done. And, obviously Robert came in at the end. Aiden got a little dinged up, lost his wind. So Robert came in and, he obviously executed the final drive to get us down there.
Preparation for the next game. What you guys need to work on?
Yeah, I mean, just naked eye, I would say, we turned it over 3 times. They turned it over once. We doubled up their yards. It shouldn't have been that close, quite honestly. I think they're a good team, and, Coach Bush and the staff do a really good job. And they took advantage of opportunities, turned the ball over in your own 5, and then, obviously you have a turnover later on. You just can't have that stuff, so we got to be better at that. I know that's one thing we'll focus on this week. Also, we ran the ball effectively with the quarterback. That was really what we were going to do. They were doing some things to take away our run game, really good stuff on their part, but we'll work more on that this week. But, I do think overall, when it's time to make plays, the guys make some plays. So that's really what's really critical. And, obviously Devin Gibbs on that last drive had 2 critical catches and put us in a situation to be able to kick that game-winning field goal. And, really I thought our defense played pretty good all day. They gave up the one drive, before the half, which, we wound up going down and getting some points too. So, really we I thought we did a decent job there on both sides. But really I thought our defense played well all day.
Just have a lot of defense, especially that last drive. When they had a chance to go down, score, take the lead, and what was that? What was the defining moment?
Yeah, I mean, the kid dropped the ball. I mean, obviously he got loose, and we let the quarterback out. All week we talked. I can't tell you how many times we talked about not letting the quarterback out of the pocket. I mean, it's almost to a point of nauseum that we talked about it so much during the week, and our guys just didn't do a good job of it all day. All day. I was disappointed in the way our defensive line and our outside linebackers played because they didn't do what they were coached to do. And that's my fault as a head coach. I guess we didn't emphasize it enough, and we have to make sure they understand when we're emphasizing something that's going to be a critical part in the game. And we knew keeping Marburger in the pocket was going to be our best way to win the game, and we let him get out of there. And quite honestly, that should have been a catch and a field goal. And now we're talking about a different thing right now.
But we're not.
Yeah, he dropped it. So I mean, obviously the Lord was on our side for sure on that one, and. But it evens out, I mean, all the ridiculous penalties that these guys called out there today. I mean, I'm not so sure, where those things came from, but, and then the ones they didn't call, that was, those ones were even more glaring. So, we obviously, some of them were our fault and we got to get better at it. But, I think for the most part, we did enough to just barely win that game.